When it comes to Pokemon shipping, it's pretty easy to see where people stand. You either live for it, or you don't have a care in the world. Usually, I'm on the latter side of things, but every now and again, even I get that tiny little flicker of interest when I see certain characters together. So what better day to talk about this than Valentine's Day? But rather than trying to have an endless discussion on who the best ship in the world is, I'm gonna take a different approach and try be all smart. And I'll do that by taking a somewhat in-depth look at one of the relationships from the Pokemon Adventures manga, namely Black and White. A pairing based on contrasting characters with very different personalities, as they both dedicate their lives to their dreams, whilst mutually supporting each other. But even though I said in depth, I'm not some super scholar, so don't expect a high quality breakdown. I'm just gonna be talking about some things I find kinda cool, okay? Okay, before we talk about these two as a pair, we need to talk about them separately, starting with Black. And to simply summarize, this guy's your typical shonen protagonist, who wants to succeed at his goal, which in his case is winning the Pokemon League. And if I had to compare him to someone, I'd say Gon, because he's pretty tunnel visioned on this goal, blocking out his surroundings to the point it affects others around him, whilst also leaving his responsibilities behind. But overall he's a good guy who you can always count on in a battling pinch. As for White, she's a smart girl who knows her way around business, in order to achieve her own personal dream of creating a successful Pokemon talent agency. But she's also able to find compromises with others, without sacrificing anyone's goal in the process. But in her willingness to not cause conflict, she can hesitate to act when necessary. As you can tell, these two are two sides of the same coin, yin and yang, or literally black and white. Both of them share the same want to achieve something, and excel when it comes to topics relating to these goals. But when it comes down to how they want to achieve these dreams, there's a difference. Black's super focused on it without fail, but White's able to realize things and take her time. Neither one of them is wrong in their choices, and that's what makes their contrast so nice. Anyway, enough about separate individuals, let's get on to their meeting. Black and White's first meeting really showcases their differences. White's already finding success in her agency, whilst receiving compliments from everyone on the set, and trying to seal the deal for continuous work. But off to the side is Black, who along with his Pokemon are restating their vow to win the Pokemon League, shouting at the top of his lungs without a care in the world. So I guess you could say that White is a realist who's actively making her dream happen, and Black's an optimist who believes everything's gonna turn out alright. White then gets asked to prepare her Tepics for the shoot, but the only issue is she was meant to have both a male and female Tepic, and due to some misinformation from the advertiser, she's only got her own female one. Fortunately, Black's still in the area, and his Tepic gets on perfectly fine with White's, so like the professional she is, she acts quickly to introduce herself. The two trainers head over to the set, where everything's a complete mess, and Black's accused of being the culprit. White stands up for him so he doesn't get arrested, but Black can sort things out himself, using his smarts to find out the true culprit, being a girl Vantula. So he deals with the trouble, but not without the filming equipment getting torched too. And once again, White acts quickly, offering to pay for the damages, since Black's now her new employee. The filming takes place next day, and everything luckily goes perfectly, and even White's managed to secure herself another job of work. But despite this, she's still running things at a loss after Black's damages, so the two of them are gonna have to resort to camping outside, unlike the two Tepics who are sleeping soundly in a hotel. Although Black's dream is pretty simple to go around, being train and win, White's is a little bit more complicated, having to hire trainers Pokemon and keep them in tip-top condition, whilst also having to follow strict schedules. Something Black still can't wrap his head around, especially now since he has to work under White to pay for his damages. White lectures him on the rules of adult life, where you can't just do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, she's still grateful that he's complying to work with her, even if it's for a short while, and most importantly, because it helps her get closer to her dream. And despite his usual straightforward Pokemon League minded nature, Black quietly considers slowing the pace of his own dream for the sake of someone else. Now, this may sound like a small thing, but you gotta remember, up till this point, Black's never been a person to put the brakes on his dreams, even with his childhood friends Sharon and Bianca. The three of them were supposed to get a Pokedex and Pokemon from Professor Juniper at the same time, just like in the games. But Black couldn't hold back and ended up taking his pick first, which ended up in a massive fight between the Pokemon, and worst of all, led to the destruction of Sharon and Bianca's Pokedexes. And to add even more salt in the wound, he left without even saying goodbye. And this is all after Sharon and Bianca recommended him to Professor Juniper. But after meeting White, someone who shares the same ideals of dreams with him, even if not portrayed through the same method, Black can't help but respect it. And on the topic of ideals, the next thing I want to talk about is Team Plasma. Just like in the games, these two bear witness to Ghetsis' speech in Accumula Town, and they witness trainers who have had their Pokemon for years release them right in front of their eyes. Both Black and White disagree with these actions and Team Plasma, but where Black argues directly with trainers to change their mind, White speaks delicately in hopes they would change their opinion. But despite the difference in their methods, both of them fail. Black wants to chase after Getsus and stop him from spreading his word, but White lets them know they can't do that. It's a free world and technically, they haven't done anything wrong. But even with this being the case, Black can't let it slide, since the Pokemon themselves didn't want to be released, so he chooses to chase after him. White wants to stop him, but she gets a work call, forcing her to have to choose between following Black or prioritizing her work. And she ends up choosing the right choice, picking to follow Black, but Team Plasma already managed to escape. So White goes to continue her call, only to find out she's already missed her chance. She can't help but wonder if what she did was the right choice. After all, she doesn't know much about Black, considering they only met a couple days ago. All she can do is continue to observe him, realizing that she's been thinking about him a whole lot more, but just chalks up the whole thing to if he was a Pokemon, she would be able to turn him into a star. When she does return to Black, he's already found himself in trouble again, since he's fighting against N. Black's getting easily packed up and tells White to prepare to battle, but she can't battle at all. In fact, she's hardly even a trainer since the Pokemon she has don't belong to her. N preaches his ideals to them on releasing Pokemon, rather than keeping them in Pokeballs, but Black overpowers them with his own truth, forcing N to retreat with questions. White speculates that he's part of Team Plasma based on what he was saying, but Black knows that he's not a full-on bad guy based off of the dreams he saw in Muna's dream mist. The two of them press on with their journey and eventually arrive in Nakarine City, where White wants them to do some advertising, but Black isn't really cut out for it. And later on, he ends up getting in trouble with the filming crew again, so he has to do his usual detective work and defeat the culprit, making White realize he really is just more suited for battling. The matchup with N and the incident with the crew at Nakarine kind of act as parallels in a way. Black and White each realize that the other person has a troubling flaw that they're gonna need to deal with. For Black, it's dealing with people, and for White, it's her ability to defend herself. But for now, it's fine, as the other person's there to help them for their mistakes. The two continue traveling through Unova, learning more about each other and their personal quirks, and most importantly, becoming believable friends, and not just characters who are friends because the writer says so. And in his continued work, Black's eventually paid off half of his debt, and made evident progress in completing his dream, having 2 gym badges by his name. So White gifts him some Castelia cones, which are gonna come in handy in battle, but also meaning she spent hours in the line in order to support Black in his dream, with the sole reason being she respects his hard work. Being a Pokemon trainer isn't cheap since you have to get items and feed your Pokemon, but White is willing to sponsor Black on his quest, all for the priceless return of him wearing her company logo at the Pokemon League, believing he'll get to that stage, something Black happily agrees to. And that right there is the mutual support that makes these two so great. They both have their own dreams and goals that they want to achieve, and despite being very different, they help out in any way they can to help the other person achieve these goals, which is exactly what you want to see, a nice and equal partnership. But this newly formed partnership is gonna get tested immediately, with Tepig beginning to evolve into a Pignite, which of course completely hinders White's plans, begging Black to not evolve his Pokemon. After all, their whole selling point is the 2 Tepigs. Black eventually arrives to his next gym battle, and it's against Berg. He gets pushed down to one Pokemon, being Tepig, and he's hesitant to use it due to it being so close to evolving. But with no other options, he lets his Pokemon do battle, and Tepig does in fact evolve. Later on, Black worries about White's work, seeing as he did just screw over their whole campaign. But fortunately for him, White isn't the type of person to make his dreams struggle for the sake of hers, and she's already come up with a new market for their talents. Okay, by now I'm pretty sure you understand that these two go together well, and if I wanted to, I could keep on listing the moments and scenes where they work together, but they can't be together all the time, otherwise that would mean being too reliant on the other person. As I said, Black can battle, but he's bad with dealing with people, and White can deal with people, but she can't battle. So in order for these two to grow together, they're gonna have to first grow as separate people. At some point in the story, White meets N again, and he smashes her ideals of Pokemon performing, by revealing it's in a Pokemon's nature to battle. After all, it's how they evolve. But if her Pokemon only experience the acting life, they'd be suppressing their true nature, convincing White's Tepig to leave her side and follow him. Later on, Black and White meet up once again, and she's understandably in a bit of a slump. During this time, Black gets a special offer to test out the Bio Subway, before its official opening, which would work perfectly as training. But he chooses to hold it off, knowing he has to stay with White and help her out. White on the other hand realizes what N was saying was most likely the truth, but she still believes in her dream of Pokemon performing, and Tepig will return once it's experienced battles. And in order for her to be ready for this, she has to learn how to be a trainer, so that no matter what, Tepig can always have options. So she decides to put a pause on her dream and get on the Battle Subway, also separating herself from Black due to him being way too advanced to compete with her. In other words, pausing his dream too, which he's of course salty about since he wanted to go on it as well. After some motivating words from Marshall, Black teaches White the basics on being a trainer, and soon enough, she's ready to take her leave. So the two say their goodbyes, after traveling through 5 cities together. In their time from Accumula Town to Nimbasa City, the two had gotten really close. But even as they say goodbye, Black reminds White that he still owes her some money. So no matter how far they are, he's still going to be her employee, and he still will wear her logo at the league, pushing her to never give up on her dream too, and even giving her his braviary for a bodyguard. During this time apart, both trainers do their best to make up for the flaws that their other half helped with. And I want to say, it's not about being perfect, it's just about improving their stats out of the negative. And they both do just that. Black learns to slow things down and be more responsible for the sake of others, after learning he's the one to awaken Reshiram. And White collects a full team of 6 Pokemon, and tying against the Battle Subway. When the time eventually comes for the two to meet up again, they're even more of equals now, which doesn't really make sense, but you get what I'm trying to say. Sadly though, they're not going to get to spend too much time together, as the Pokemon League is coming up and Team Plasma are making their move, so once again they're going to have to split their efforts. Black takes on the Pokemon League and White works with the professors to find Team Plasma. And eventually, they both succeed at these missions, and Black technically achieving his dreams. He goes to the Pokemon League and beats everyone in the tournament, and even beats N, who beat Older. And if that wasn't enough, he even beats the extra boss Getsis. So like, technically he won, but at the same time he never gets crowned champion and all that. Anyway, no one cares about that stuff. What's important is White is here to congratulate him on a job well done, and both trainers make friends with N. Sadly though, Getsis is a sore loser, and he begins trapping Black in the Lightstone, whilst it seals away Reshiram. As his time in the world is fading, Black and White get to have one more emotional conversation. Black never forgot to showcase their logo to everyone at the league, but he was going to do a whole ad campaign when he won. But because of the way things turned out, he never got the chance to show it off. And as he gets sealed away, all he can do is hope he worked hard enough that he paid off his debt. Which of course, White doesn't even care about, instead wishing he could just not get sealed away, bringing the story to a tragic end. Nah, I'm playing. A 2-year time skip occurs, and with the help of her friends, White finds the Lightstone once again, teaming up with N and going to the Dream World, which is where Black is residing. Black's pretty embarrassed to see White again, especially since he still owes her, but sometimes you don't really gotta say too much, and with a simple hug, it's pretty clear to see why I made this video. Now, at the end of the day, this is still a Pokemon manga and they don't want to focus too much on the lovey-dovey stories, so after this we only get a couple more moments between these two. But that's completely okay. The best thing about these two is the simplicity. You don't need a massive billboard or signed statement from the author to know these two are made for each other. An official confirmation is always nice, but just seeing these two stand together as equals, even if not in the same area, is enough for me. But what about you guys? Let me know your opinions on these two in the comment section down below. Do you think you ship them, or are they just close friends? Either is fine, and I'd love to see your opinions. But with that said and done, make sure to like and subscribe for more Pokemon Adventures videos, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.